Tree, but
would you? Well, I suppose not so much the Swiss, but the Icelandic one. They've had a massive cultural shift in the past 10 years because of everything that happened. Well, in the Isle of Man, we had a parliament level like 50% new MHKs. Ramsey Town Commissioners, we had eventually, effectively 11 new commissioners. There's Wilford Young, absolutely Ramsey stalwart, who's still there, and Pat Ayres, who was around for a few months before the last election. So we've had a completely
change.
Yeah, there's no existing people saying, well, this is the way we've already done it. We're all brand new. But to an extent, I don't feel that there has been, I mean, maybe there has been a sort of real shift and there's a completely different atmosphere to how we're dealing with things. But for me, what we are guided by, and I'm absolutely guided by, is the staff, the town clerk and all the staff, because we're completely reliant upon the information they give us. Now, I've got complete faith in Ramsey Town Commissioner staff. I think they do a fine job. I have no reason to doubt them. But that's the same across all political ways, that you have an MHK, a commissioner, who...
That's your front line,
Yeah, and you do have the final say, you do make the decision. But you make the decision based on the information you have and what you're given. So this, like maybe if we hadn't gone out for this consultancy, we'd be sort of presented with the dog bylaws and be sort of say, well, here's what we've always done, do you want to change it? Might do, might not do.
Yeah.
Well, actually suddenly we're being given this massive amount of opinion and feedback and information from the public, which kind of gives an opportunity to get outside of the little box that you have within the sort of, I don't want to say political system, but the commissioner system where you have your 12 people who sit around and discuss it, and you get the information from the same few people. And I think that the same with the Tynwald, that regardless of the fact you've got 12 new MHKs, civil servants are still the same. Regardless of what you said in your manifesto, when you had, not you personally, but generally what someone would have said in their manifesto, when you have no idea of how Tynwald works, or not a full picture of how it works, and then you're put into that area, and you're then left looking for experience and guidance from the civil servants, who, again, people have their opinions on this as well. I have no reason to doubt that people aren't doing what they think is best, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And do you end up with situations like Rob Callister found himself in, where he's having to scramble to justify decisions that maybe he had something to do, maybe they were taking place a year ago or 6 months ago, and can you, even if you did start even gently introducing a more easier way of doing consultancy as a sort of like gradual step towards direct democracy, can you overturn that like a oil tanker going through the sea?
Can you? Yeah, it's a question that was, I think somebody phoned me after I came out of my Manx Radio interview just before the election. Somebody phoned me and said, "Great, love, good, but you'll never change them." Somebody said to me at the requisition meeting as well, I love what you're saying, but you have no idea what you're actually trying to take on. And I think, I see what you're saying, and you read like the signature sponsorship, the report that came out of Tynwald. It was said in there, that effectively they have very little control over the civil service, and if it really, if the top level of staff is not performing as the minister wants, it's not an awful lot that they can do about it. And it's funny because it just came up on Facebook the other day about this exactly the same thing in Jersey. It just had with this thing that they've issued that they've had with their investment fund. It was said in one of their reports that that the civil service don't work directly for the minister.
Yeah.
So there's this
because ministers come and go. Yeah. The civil service will still be there.
And there is a constant. I think the danger, and we did discuss this in one of the meetings as a before the election. The danger, for me anyway, and it's the way things are going and will get worse, I think, is to see this them and us. Like, it's them, the ones that get all of our tax money.
Yeah. Because
it's not them and us.
No.
It's us.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Is that I've worked in every different sort of framework of job going. I've worked in, and I understand what it's like to be a member of staff in a big organisation. I understand what it's like to be an employer. And I think that there's definitely a danger of that them and us thing. That I think that I think that direct democracy could change a little bit, because it would, but by changing the relationship between the public and the politician, you've automatically changed the relationship between the public and the civil service, because the public and the civil service we pay the taxes and you spend them. Now, if you're not spending them as we want, there's somebody in the middle who takes all, and eventually they're the people who get the chop.
Yeah.
You saw it at the last election. There was a few people who took the chop for that exact reason, because of the relationship that they had between the way the civil service do things. Oh, well, this is the way it's done. Oh, well, that's not the way we wanted it to do. And I think that ultimately the perception that it can't be changed isn't true. It could be extremely difficult to change, but ultimately these people work for the government. The government is a thing, and it is possible to change it. The problem that I see at the moment is that there's not a lot of will to change it, and it's because it is understood that it would be incredibly difficult to change certain things. And yeah, there are issues with how do you get rid of certain members of staff if they're not. That you say that was in some of the Tyndall reports, is in the signature sponsorship report, and no doubt some others. How do you deal with a senior civil servant who's not doing what you want them to do? That is, it's an incredibly difficult situation. But ultimately, if the public have given a direction, and that direction is not being met by the civil service, there has to be a way to deal with that. I've having dealt with staff myself, I understand that there is a process. It's not pretty. It's not a pleasant experience at all. But there is a process, and the problem is if you step off that process, you're in deep trouble. As they have done. Yeah. If you try and sidestep that process like anybody else, you're on your own. You really are in trouble. But it's not easy, but not impossible.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose, bring it right back around to where I'm at.
Yeah.
I suppose, is it too simplistic, do you think, to just sort of say, well, whatever the survey said, whatever the consultancy say, I'll just follow regardless?
Probably from the position that you're in right now. If for example, the majority of the survey responses asked you to do something, and there was a very obvious reason why that wasn't going to work. Let's say, for example, they asked you to do something, and the consequence was there's a massive cost to whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
At that point, for me, there is you started a debate essentially.
Mm.
It really depends on how far you want to go with that debate, because you can go back to them and say, well, this is what this percentage of people said that they wanted to do. However, that's going to cost this much. Because everybody has to pay that. It's a tricky one, you see, until you've got a framework, until you've got a proper framework in place. What you've done, which is great, is you've done it informally. So you've now got this body of opinion that in theory, the next step that you want to make is, well, if this has got a cost consequence, it might not have in this situation, but if there's a consequence that we need to deal with, we do need to put it back out to say, well, this is the consequence of this situation. Or use your executive prerogative, which you do have, and say, actually.
Because I think one of the advantages of the survey we've done at the moment is, with one of the questions, it's very simple, it's black and white.
Mm.
It's, do you want dogs in the park, yes, no?
Mm.
Which kind of goes back to what you said at the start, which is if you go with a very clear choice, then it makes things easier. I worry sometimes about the fait accompli consultancy approach. And another issue that's sort of like in the pipeline is the roadworks that may or may not be happening in Ramsey. And I can see that the people who are making those decisions, their idea is that come May, when they've come up with their plan, they're just going to unveil it as, here's the plan, and that's going to happen next month. Whereas my kind of feeling is actually I want more discussion and out in the open earlier so everyone can come forward. Yeah. But that flies in the face of that sort of simplistic view.
Yeah, well, this is one of the things that, again, I'm hoping that we will eventually address. Facebook and online surveys and petitions and things are great for making a clear black and white. They're not so good at developing a policy or an idea. And again, I think that if you look at like what the Icelandic Pirate Party have done, and what we're hoping to do, is to develop something a little bit more advanced. So you've got a black and white yes/no question on your survey about dogs in the park. However, yes or no, yes, you're going to have dogs in the park. There are other things that then spark up off that. What is the responsibility of having the dog in the park? What are the consequences if you break that responsibility? What are the costs associated? There's a whole load of other little questions. Now, traditionally, you would just have to go, well, yeah. So you've got certain percentages they want they want dogs in the park, but there is this, there is cost. There are responsibilities. Do we have to change this law, etc., etc. Now, it is possible, and there are programs available basically to break that process down. So yeah, you've got a certain percentage that said yes, they want dogs in the park. However, there are a number of consequences to that, and what do we think? Because that might then change. Okay, they want dogs in the park, but that's going to cost £10,000 for whatever reason. Okay, so that's the process that ordinarily you and the commissioners would just have to go. Okay, and it's a sequence of weighing up options that can be broken down and given to the public now. It never used to be possible. That's the thing.
So you're sort of seeing that ideally what you would do is kind of say, here's a 50-50 choice, but not just yes or no, here's 50-50 choice, and here are the ramifications of both options.
Right.
So that rather than it just being, do you want dogs in the park or not, here's an emotive response, here's more of a, well actually by doing it, these are the sort of pros and cons both ways.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, you see, this is, I suppose it comes back to what sort of thing you talk about when you say direct democracy. Like people talk about the Brexit vote. The Brexit vote wasn't direct democracy because that was it. That was the end of your power. Yeah. So I've promised you 350 million quid for the NHS. You see, if it was true direct democracy, I'd have the power to kick your ass after it was revealed you lied. Yeah. So it's about that. It's about that ongoing relationship.